pleasure today to be bringing back into your radar friend and colleague, Dara Feldman. Now, Dara, you've been really sent here on this earth to be uplifting humanity, you know, to just give that broad thing. And most of your work has come through the practice of the virtues. Today, my invitation today was to ask for your support and insight. Here in Australia, we've been having horrific bushfires and also a lot of other nature-born tragedies as well as man-made. And the nation has been shocked time and again. And I'm appreciating for myself and for others just how difficult it is in the face of an onslaught to sometimes hold your place, stand really self-assured, continue on in the face of adversity. And in one element, I'm thinking particularly of the bushfire victims, people who've lost everything, and their journey back, which is going to take many years. And it's a path untrod. I've been endured floods, a number of floods in my lifetime, and there's a big cleaning up operation, but many things are salvaged. And in these circumstances, pretty much for most of the people affected, there's been nothing salvaged. So, you know, dealing with the loss and rebuilding, and I've likened it very much to we need to be getting into that place of phoenix rising now, and what's required of us. And I just knew we were going to be having be able to reach some real wisdom. And I drew 2 cards. I still use my ordinary physical cards from time to time. So discernment and detachment were the 2 that actually fell out this morning before the call. So shall we begin first off with just living into incredible loss, whether it's personal or in the physical. You know, how do we begin? Well, there's kind of 2 aspects. There's how do we help those people become reborn, if you like, and then how can we be strong when, you know, it's such a painful area. It's such a difficult area to speak into.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Pat, I just want to honor your service to humanity, right? And your compassion that you have for the suffering that's really, really real and overwhelming in Australia and across the planet right now, but particularly so much going on down under where you are. And for me, the place that I always begin are with the virtues. And so before our talk, I too picked a card, and it was resilience. So I'd like to read that card, and I believe that perhaps from that, the wisdom will emerge.
Yes.
Because I have no wisdom to share, just a little bit of perhaps some experience and distance from the incredible PTSD that you all are experiencing. So, resilience is the strength of spirit to recover from adversity. When we experience disappointment, loss, or tragedy, we find the hope and courage to carry on. Humor lightens the load when it seems too heavy. That might have something to do with you, Pat. We overcome obstacles by tapping into a deep well of faith and endurance. At times of loss, we come together for comfort. And I think there's real wisdom in the unity of that. We grieve and then move on, giving ourselves permission to actually feel the pain and the grief, not pushing it down, not intentioning ourselves out of it, but really to experience the grief. So from there, we can move on. We create new memories. We discern the learning that can come from the hardship. And sometimes it takes a little time or a lot of time to find the gift in the H, fill in the blank, rhymes with hit, right? We don't cower in the face of challenge. We engage fully in the dance of life. And I think as I read that last line of the front of the card, it certainly invites us to focus on gratitude. What was the gift? Perhaps all of our material items were lost, and we can grieve that. And we still have our health and our well-being and our community. And on the back of the card, it says, that which does not destroy strengthens. The practice of resilience. When trouble comes, I stay strong. And actually, instead of reading these as affirmations, I'm going to turn them into questions.
Yes.
When trouble comes, how can I stay strong? How can I have the flexibility to bounce back? How can I access the faith to overcome? How can I find comfort in community? How can I trust hardship to cultivate my character? How can I fully engage in living? And the affirmation, I am thankful for the gift of resilience. It keeps me growing. So I think just like Viktor Frankl talks about, when despair comes and the really hard times come, when we can find the gift in the incredible pain, that really allows us to find our meaning and purpose. And within that meaning and purpose is where we can find the joy.
Yes.
So I'm wondering how resilience spoke to you, my dear friend.
Yes, exactly. When I had all those losses 20 years ago at the turn of the century, an insight came to me through my own experience then, because I chose not to be medicated and to find another way. And in the doing so, I found joy. And it was like, right, I'd been actually doing it all my life, but of course I didn't have a name for it. But I realized I am uniquely positioned to show people how to find joy when there is none. And I've been doing it a long time, but now it has a name, joyology. And, the exponential outflow from them to be able to support people through terrible loss and create something beautiful. A lot of my grieving work has been about creating amazing pieces of art that are giving expression to all that's there and releasing the pain. A lot of people find it hard to go to the pain, and therefore it's left there or squashed down. And when that happens, it will always eventually pop. Some way or other, it'll manifest in ill health or an explosion of anger, some other less purposeful expression.
Yeah, absolutely. Addiction, right? There's so many ways to fill the hole if we haven't done the healing. And so I honor you taking the pain of your life and using your creativity to really elevate and amplify joy, whether it's in your teaching or your speaking or the art that you make, right? So beautiful. And as you were sharing, I was thinking of Red Grammer's song, Strangely Wrapped Gift. And I just love and just so appreciate the wisdom in that. And there's a line in it, It's basically when you put your hand in the fire, will it burn or will it glow? And I imagine that as the resilience and as the healing happens across Australia, that there will be this incredible glow. And
Yes.
you know, and I know, and I've heard and I've seen pockets of that. And there is this beautiful brilliance and glow, and now eyes and hearts are on Australia, right? And looking at the lessons and inviting us to this common humanity.
Yes, yes. The when I've been talking to a gentleman who's in a little town called Cobargo in New South Wales, and post the fires, 140-year-old property, and the old homestead's gone. It's all gone. And I've just been talking to him every day. And along that conversation path has been a growing intimacy and friendship. And, you know, men don't as willingly share and converse in the way we've been doing just this last short minute. So, you know, allowing that to unfold and to have him reveal, Pat, I'm okay until somebody's kind to me. And then I break down. So, you know, being able to support him then through those little moments to reassure that actually, you know, I know blokes don't do it, but now's the time, you know, and you have plenty of privacy to be doing that in your own space, in your own way, and then giving him other little practices, like even simple breathing techniques to help him become grounded once he's expressed, without taking him too far off that which he knows and is comfortable with.
Pleasure, compassion, and gentleness accompanying him, you know, taking him just a little step further to open him up to that vulnerability. You know, I think that there's this invitation all across the world right now to be vulnerable. In part, I think Brene Brown has elevated the okayness of being vulnerable, as have others. And when we are vulnerable, that's when we see our common humanity. And those stories and the labels and the traditions of what primarily men have been taught, you know, don't cry, keep a stiff upper lip, etc., that is breaking down. And also with gender fluidity right now, you know, that's basically like there are no rules. There is not one way of being and living and sharing feelings. And so I think this one-on-one accompaniment, your generosity of spirit, is such an incredible gift, and it goes both ways, right? Do you want to say more?
Yes. You know, there's a saying, that which you seek is seeking you. So the areas in my life that need to be filled, and this isn't why I did it, but it's coming as a result of, you know, being able to support another to find peace. The Dalai Lama has a verse that he says, if you wish to know peace, then provide peace for another. If you want to know love, then provide love for another. And so in that mindset, then that's the core of the communication. And I've really seen it's really simple. He talks, I listen, and healing happens each time. So it's incremental, you know, piece by piece. And I've invited others into the circle, and people have gifted their books to him, which I hope will go into the community and be part of a central resource. And so those surprises that land in the mail, it's like, you know, in the face of this desolation, the people are people are sending me mail. At the moment, there are 26 angel books on their way, and it's a woman who talks about 5 angels, but the angels are values.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And so she's gifted me a box of books, and it's like, right, away they go. So irrespective of faith or belief, it's more about the gesture behind, and knowing that each of those values are going to land in the hearts of the people who receive them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's that certainty for me about that.
Yeah. Such generosity. So I'm hearing and honoring and recognizing this flow of generosity. You know, your generosity of spirit with this other soul that you're accompanying, and invited more generosity for people to send and share books. And by the way, my book, The Heart of Education, even though the subtitle is Bringing Joy, Meaning, and Purpose Back to Teaching and Learning,
Yeah.
I've posted it all online. It's a free downloadable PDF and a link to the free audio that everyone can access. So I'll send it to you.
Yes.
And if it's helpful, feel free to share it with others. And in the opening, as you know, I do talk about my own trauma and my own loss and my own grief, and the transformation from having zero self-esteem, self-worth, to going through all the challenges and the tests of being married to an alcoholic, my abuse, my eating disorders, etc., to this place of gratitude for those challenges. And I would go back to live through all of it to be where I am today. And I do feel that when incredible pain happens, that we do grow. And you talked about the phoenix rising.
Yes.
And I have no doubt that as people continue to share and connect with souls, perhaps part of what's happening all over the world is to having us disconnect from the technology, though there are benefits. I'm in the United States and you're, in Australia. There's benefits, and then there's real healing and power to be connected one-on-one and face-to-face in this dynamic exchange, not, just pressing buttons all the time.
Yeah.
So, and then I also, a lesson that I've learned recently, I was in India doing some work, and it was really a blessing. And on the last day, as I was getting ready to go work with 125 educators, I fell on this beautifully, freshly washed, very wet floor, and I broke my wrist.
Oh.
But I didn't say, I was like, no, let's go. I need to go. I've made a commitment, and I'm going to do this workshop. And I went and did the workshop, was in a lot of pain. I flew home 2 days later, and I didn't want to go to the doctor just because of the expenses. My husband and I have been bootstrapping the new app and just being really mindful of the expenses. And so I was sharing this with a friend of mine, and she's like, go to the doctor, I'll pay for your x-ray. I'm like, no, it's fine. And then the next day I was sharing with another friend. She's like, go to the doctor, I'll pay for the x-ray. I'm like, no, it's fine. And in my prayer and meditation the next day, as I'm celebrating 30 years in Al-Anon for families of alcoholics. I'm not an alcoholic, but I married one my first time, and my mom was one, right? And I've learned all about worthiness and receiving. And I was like, really? 30 years and I'm still not able to receive? Wait a minute. All money is an exchange of energy. And energetically, my friendship, especially with my roommate from college, like, she can afford to give me some money to get an x-ray. And I can give her the gift of receiving it. And so it was this awakening for me. And here was my little mini Phoenix rising. Though my bone is broken, my spirit was really set free. And I realized that this work that Dave and I have been doing, and everyone like yourself in the Virtues Project for over 30 years, the Virtues Project's been around, it's really it's worthy. And those of us who are committed to this work, we're worthy, as is every soul, right? Nobody's worthier or more worthier than other, but you know, we are too. And we've bootstrapped the app that we've redeveloped and this whole thing independently. And for the first time, I realized, you know, if we asked people if they wanted to invest and we got donations and we had like $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, we could build this resource, this Virtues Cards app in the palm of people's hands to remind them who they are and exponentially make a huge difference. Like, okay, I now am like able to ask people if they wish to join us. And if they don't, that's okay. It's not personal. And if they do, then we're providing them the opportunity to be generous and be of service. Yes. Whether it's a one-on-one conversation or somebody gifting somebody $1 million to do really good work in the world, we need to receive. We need to be able to contribute and receive. Yes. And I think perhaps maybe that's part of the journey for our souls as to why some things are happening.
Yes, I think, you know, we were talking before the interview about some experiences I've had, and yes, there's great learning. And a question I ask myself when challenged is, who am I being in all of this? And what I'm more committed to if I'm not being particularly strong or solid. So, and that I am committed to holding that higher place and to stay. I love the word equanimity, and that's where I want to stay. I'd love to be consistently in that equanimous space, so that you're not buffeted by the storms, but you are still present to what's going on. You know, that's a remarkable position. And I think part of my role is to be supporting others now in the face of what's going on here in Australia to find that place for themselves, irrespective of who they are and what they're doing, to find that place, because then they too can be a bigger contribution.
Absolutely. And again, bless the gift of your presence, right? And your generosity of spirit. And as you know, those of us who do this work, a lot of the work that I do right now is in social justice, restorative justice, restorative practices, race and equity. And there is so much hurt and racism happening in the United States, around the world, but particularly in the United States. It is heart-wrenching. And so there is just a lot of compassion fatigue and vicarious trauma.
Yes.
For folks who are committed to help being part of the solution and to help bring the spaces for people to share and to heal, not to go in and save, right? But to create that space for healing. And even just educators being in the front lines and anyone in the helping professions, or what my daughter, who's just such this passionate social justice person, talks about, the pink professions. Those that are primarily dominated by women, yes. Right? And so what are we taught? To put our oxygen masks on first. We must do our self-care first. And so that means perhaps waking up 20 minutes before our real alarm goes off and doing some meditation, mindful practices, prayer, if people are prayerful, right? Gratitude lists, walk in nature, and being of service. And service doesn't mean that you have to like go and save the world. It's what you're doing one-on-one with this person and offering a smile to somebody who normally people don't see or recognize. And I just think that we're also maybe being invited to simplicity, right? How can we simply see one another? And here's Red Grammer again, one of his songs, See Me Beautiful, right? Look for the best in me. How can we look for the best in one another? And then rise to serve together. We can't do any of this by ourselves, and we're not supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for this today. It's been wonderful. I mentioned to you earlier, and I'm going to close with this. I've been aware of and working in the virtues for probably 19 or 20 years, and it's taught me in a very simple way how to be an observer rather than a judger. It's led me to that. It wasn't a thing I had to try really hard for. It just unfolded. And one of the things that I love about all the virtues practices is the language and the use of the word honour. We don't use that word much every day anymore. In some ways it's quite old-fashioned. However, words can be a balm. So thank you for joining us, and I made a piece of soul art some time back, and it's going to be a bit hard to show people properly. I might get a photo and put it on the end. But I love this verse from Julia Cameron. It's called Words. I wish I could take language and fold it like cool rags. I would lay words upon your forehead and would wrap words upon your wrist. Then my words would say, or something better. I would ask them to murmur hush and shh, and it's all right. I would ask them to hold you tightly all night. I wish I could take language and daub and soothe and cool, where fever blisters and burns, where fever turns yourself against you. I wish I could take language and heal the words that were wounds you have no name for. So, Julia Cameron, thank you.
That's
beautiful.
Really, really beautiful. Absolutely, we can. If it's okay, I'd like to just share just a little bit more.
Yes.
So when I was in India, in an evaluation, somebody said LOV. LOV, love, all right? LOVE is love, but language of virtues.
Oh.
Right? So there's a way that we can absolutely share the love, language of virtues every day. And may I just share about the app, because it's a free download?
Yes.
So either on Google or in the App Store, the app is called Virtues Cards. And when you download it, it comes actually with a sample deck. And so let's see if I'll be able to share this with you. So it gives you 20 of the reflection cards. And then when you scroll down, there's 10 of the new sunset meditation cards by the founders, which are extraordinary. And then 10 of the educator cards. And finally, 10 of the family cards. Those are free. So people can download them. You can shake your phone and look at this, randomly comes up. How perfect. Optimism. You can double tap to flip, and you can also click on the arrow to share it. Now, if you want, let's go up. Let's say that you really fell in love with one of the decks. You can click on the gallery, and it will take you to where you can actually download all of the other cards or a full set of the cards. And so people love the reflection cards. Let me just click on it. And then you have the full set of 100 cards.
Yeah.
They're either 99 cents US or $1.99. We really wanted to make them accessible. And then the last feature, I'll go to cheerfulness. John Cavlin is in the house. John took that picture when he was in Japan. There is actually, a journal feature. So you can click on the journal and you can select a virtue and write. And I think that when people who are going through some challenges, right, or even in a place of joyfulness, if they can just go, oh, I'm feeling stressed, shake the phone and have a virtue come up, it interrupts the anxiety and it invites us to those words,
Yes.
to those healing words and our higher self. So hopefully people can use the Virtues Cards app
Yes.
as a way to continue to do what that poem so beautifully said and to help with the healing.
Yes. Yes.
So I love you so much. So grateful to be on this journey with you, one word at a time.
Yes. Thank you so much. I have the physical cards, but I also have the app, and it's great now. I use the app even when I'm speaking, and there'll be an opportunity, and it's like, let's pick a card, or I might choose a card at the outset and set the energy for the session. And it's just awesome because then many in the room will download it while you're, speaking. So the capacity to influence and create a shift. And I think, one of the gifts of things like that is the randomness is, it doesn't escape me what comes up sometimes,
Right. And we say the virtues pick us. We don't pick the virtues, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and so maybe here's just to leave you with this last little piece, as those of you in Australia are in this place of healing and all over the world, is a very simple plan, and it's an acronym. So it's pick daily. So you can shake your phone and have a daily virtues pick. And then the L stands for look for the good in self and others. We've got to fortify ourselves with strength and honoring ourselves in order to see the good in others, right? Yeah. And then A is acknowledge and appreciate often. What we focus on expands. So let's really be a witness to the resilience, to the strength, to the common humanity of what's happening in Australia and around the world. And then the N stands for notice the teachable moments. Sometimes things don't go as we plan, and we even make mistakes. Instead of shaming and blaming, let's just notice the virtue that could have been used so we can move forward. And then you start all over again.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
Well, you are in my prayers, everyone, and so, so grateful. Sending love and gratitude and uplifting, joyful energy your way.
Yeah, thank you so much. Blessings back to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So humbled. Lots of love.